All right, we got the Buffalo Plus team together. Mike Catalana, Dan Fades, Jenna Cottrell, all here. And we asked on Twitter today for Bills fans, give me some comments, give me some things to talk about, and then we will discuss it, some opinions on things. Tom Verheil sent in, he's like, hey, I like the Stephon Diggs move, but he's saying, what if because of the COVID-19 virus, they can't play football this year? Does it turn into be a bad move because you lose a year of a veteran player like that, or at least if it got extended out? What do you guys think of that?
I think this is a bigger problem that we won't be talking about how bad the contracts are if this thing cancels an NFL season. So I think you start there, and I think a lot of deals will look bad. And I don't know if the NFL would make steps to amend deals. What would the union and everything that goes into that? But I'd like not to think about that.
Yeah, I think we'd have much bigger problems, Jenna, if we're in that circumstance for football season. But what's left to be said, though, is could this impact the offseason? I think it already has for players coming in. And in that case, maybe it's better to have the veterans than the draft picks.
I think if you look at it like that, obviously the timing of everything is going to be so important. But I would rather have a guy on my roster that has the NFL experience, knows how things are going to work, as a guy that's opposed to someone who's being drafted, who's really trying to get their feet out from under them. I mean, obviously, no matter how great a player is, there's usually that time it takes to get acclimated to life and just the NFL season, the NFL schedule, the NFL competition. So in that case, I mean, it would be a lot better to have a guy that has the experience. But also when you look at it, I mean, if there were to be the situation where the Bills and every team was not able to play, I think at least everyone's in the same position, the same boat when you think about it, because everyone would be missing time. I think that is a bad situation, but at least everyone is able to have this situation where, okay, everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, and the other part of that, though, if you look at it, I mean, you guys have been to all these off-season programs. And this really, sometimes I think fans don't focus on it as much as they would training camp. But a lot gets done normally for an NFL team in April and May. And we've talked to all those guys when they come in. That's the one thing about these rookies. Who knows what it's going to be like if they get drafted. But they have no idea what's going on. You think it's bad at training camp, Dan? When they come walking in during the mini camp, I mean, they really are clueless.
Well, how much of a bonus would that be then again for the Bills, bringing back the same 5 offensive line, bringing back Brian Daboll as the OC, the defensive coordinator is the same, and Leslie Fisher. The nucleus of this team is all going to be the same. So if they were to have fewer offseason workouts, this is going to be the same system. This is Josh Allen. Now, Diggs might be a little bit behind, and like you said, those rookies that come in. But for the most part, this would be, you hate to say a bonus, but it would definitely be something that wouldn't hurt the Bills as much as other teams.
Oh, I think you make a great point because, Jenna, look how it would have been a year ago. I mean, because the Bills, it was a whole new offense coming in.
Absolutely. I mean, I think other than Josh Allen, I mean, who were the starters last year that were playing again this past season?
Dawkins,
so the turnover from Dion was the only one. Yeah. I mean, you can't even obviously LOL. So I think, I mean, just going from last year to this year, there is, like Dan said, the nucleus of the team back. And I think because of that, and like Stephon Diggs, he has that NFL experience that we touched on earlier. So it might take him a little while to get up to date with the Bills, but he knows what it's like to play in the NFL. For those other guys, the draftees, I mean, it'll take some time, but I think by having so many other guys around them that know the deal, know what's going on, know the flow of things, and that in itself would be immensely helpful.
All right. Running Librarian on Twitter said, Bean and others have done a great job signing players, adding free agents, especially Diggs. Love having the O-line back. Need to address the running back in the draft. Agree?
100%.
I think they need to address the running back in general, whether that's through free agency or whether that's through the draft. They know they have Devin Singletary. They did a great job drafting him last year, but you have to have someone to offset him. It's not like Tywan Jones is going to be taking snaps at running back. It's not like other guys.
Christian Wade.
I mean, Frank Gore.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, hold on. Christian Wade.
I forgot about him.
Who do you guys know that thinks very highly of Christian Wade? And this is somebody who was in the locker room, well, for a long time, but in the locker room last year.
Frank Gore.
Frank Gore.
Frank Gore. Who else? Lorenzo Alexander?
Oh, I was like, is this a quiz?
No, Lorenzo
With
loves
Sean McCoy?
Yeah.
Lorenzo Alexander.
Oh, yes.
Always
Yes,
is
you are
sticking
right.
up for him. Am I right?
Actually, I remember now that you jogged my memory. Someone was actually talking about on Twitter the fact that the Bills need to address their running back position and getting another one behind Devin Singletary. And Lorenzo Alexander actually chimed in on Twitter and said, "Why don't you think Christian Wade can do that job?" He had a lot of confidence in Christian Wade, and that's someone who's around him all the time. And Lorenzo obviously is very familiar with the Bills and their roster. So for him to say that is actually an intriguing point.
Now we have a difference of opinion.
22nd, we're talking Christian Wade.
Christian Wade. All right, but Dan, we have a difference of opinion here because I know this is the one you're going to dig in on. You want the second main running back to be another version of Devin Singletary or something like Devin Singletary,
Correct.
not to go with the power back, right? So this whole Melvin Gordon thing for you was so foreign.
Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me because I think that I've said before that I don't like it when Frank Gore came on the field. You knew that the offensive playbook shrunk because he didn't complement the skill set of what Devin Singletary did. What's that, Jenna?
No, I mean, I think in the beginning of the season, it did work. But I think, he was in his mid-30s. This is a guy that has 15 years NFL experience. I think his productivity jumped or took a plummet. And I don't know how much that is just because of the scheme. It could also be a fact that he's an older guy and he had a lot of wear on him.
All right.
But it was also about
Hang on a second.
Singletary was
Hang on a second. I
back.
just want this. Dan, hang on 1 second. I love me some Frank Gore, but can we just pause right now for a moment of silence for Frank Gore's productivity in the NFL? That was as close to silent as we get. I love Gore, but Jenna's right. He didn't give him that. After the beginning of the year, he didn't give him that. Predictable, he didn't have it. You need that second guy. I do believe they know they need a second guy.
But I think, too, is that so many times it's like, oh, you need a power back then to complement.
Yeah, they need a power back.
You know who was really good and really hard to tackle? Devin Singletary. So he was pretty good. And you know who else they have? A 6'5" quarterback that can also get the 1 yard. He can even fumble the ball. He can even fumble the ball and then pick it up and then still get the first down on third and short.
That sounds oddly familiar.
So I want a guy that is not necessarily the exact same or not necessarily the exact opposite. Somebody in the middle that can kind of be like a Devin Singletary that can catch the ball in the backfield, run screens, maybe a little bit better at pass protection because I think Devin Singletary lacked a little bit there. But another guy that can be an explosive guy because that's what Josh Allen lacked and the Bills' offense lacked. A guy that can take the ball, as Mike, you've said so many times, that can catch a 3-yard pass and turn it into 30. That's Josh Allen's going to get a 300-yard passing game.
Yeah.
That would help him, no doubt. JG sent in a message, and he wants to know, do you think the Bills will make any changes at backup quarterback? And I know fans seem to really like having Matt Barkley, and I think there was a sense of comfort, especially when you didn't really know what you were going to get out of Josh Allen, and the thought that maybe a guy like Barkley could have been there earlier. When he did play last year, I know he hadn't played a lot. It was okay. Yeah. Do they look at it? Now, maybe not in the draft as much now because they're limited on picks. Do they look to bring in another guy to at least throw some competition, maybe get somebody on the practice squad? Not at all? You don't think so, Dan?
I would be shocked if they did, only because it seems like obviously you don't want your second string quarterback to play. We all know that, but it's a position that you need in terms of depth. And I think when you look at the relationship that Josh Allen and Matt Barkley have, there's no competition there. It's very obvious that Josh is the number one, Matt is the number two. There's no sense of, I would worry about bringing in another guy and having that kind of shift the room and the feel in the room, because I think that's really important. Look, Josh learned to be like how to have his NFL tendencies, his NFL go about things from Derek Anderson as well as Matt Barkley. And I don't think you need to disturb that right now. When Barkley played this past season wasn't great. When he played against the Jets 2 years ago, he looked good. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a reason why he's the backup, and I don't expect him to be this explosive talent. I think he's done a lot for Allen, and I think they don't want to shake that.
Yeah, I think you're making a great point about Allen. I'm not talking about competition for Allen. I'm talking about competition for Barkley.
I know, absolutely. It's not even in question. I'm saying I wouldn't mess up the feel in that room for the backup quarterback.
Yeah, I agree. I think the continuity in that room is huge, especially for a big season for Josh Allen. I don't think this is a hot take, but for some, they have a great relationship. They really get along with one another. Barkley's a smart guy, has kind of shown him the ropes. And maybe he's not the veteran that Derek Anderson was, but he's taught him a lot. They seem to really like each other. And like Jenna says, there is that nice balance. And again, competition for Barkley, I can understand, but I think Barkley's that proven backup that, look, if Matt Barkley's playing at all at next point or starts a game at all next season, it's a problem.
Yeah.
Hey,
you want to get a guy that might even have a bigger arm? Joe Flacco's out there. You want to sign Joe Flacco?
The elite Joe Flacco?
Hey, Jameis is out there. We can bring some competition in.
Oh, my gosh.
Winston's going to be interesting. Winston is going to be really interesting.
He got LASIK.
He can
so
see
it's everything.
Dan knows what I'm talking about. He can see everything now. He can see the linebacker.
One last thing for us. The draft is a month away. Dan, RIP, LV. We're not going to Vegas.
Thanks for rubbing it in. I was trying to block that out.
I was
only trying to have positive thoughts.
Okay, so we were supposed to go to Las Vegas for the draft because it was going to be the show. And Jenna and I were in Dallas. We've been in Philly. Toby and I were in Philly. Nashville. We went to Nashville.
Players were going to come on boats.
Well, we were looking forward to Vegas, but they're still going to have the draft. We don't even know exactly how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Oh, we know a lot has changed. No fans in Vegas. And wherever they have it, and it's going to be very different. Also, what's going to be different is the Bills don't have a first-round pick, and wide receiver now has been addressed, at least in that prominent place. So I'm going to run to you guys right now. The first pick for the Bills is going to be in round number 2. Position that you think the Bills will go in round number 2.
Oh, it's so hard. Because I feel like it's going to be who's ever best available. I think Brandon Beane has made that abundantly clear. I wouldn't be shocked if they went after another wide receiver. I think they've done a good job bringing back their offensive line, all 5 starters back, but I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted a lineman. And then I think you're going to draft probably a corner to have some competition.
So you're giving us every position.
Okay, sorry. All right, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, those positions
you don't know. Jenna really is very decisive when it comes
all the time.
I'm great at not overthinking decisions.
I'll take a Jenna answer as well. I'll say offense.
Thank you, Dan.
I'll say it'll be the best running back or the best wide receiver that they like.
You could be taking a running back in round 2.
Zach Moss, J.K. Dobbins, somebody like that.
How about A.J. Dillon? How about the kid out of B.C.? Big, strong runner, opposite of what Dan wants.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. When we talked to Brandon Beane at the Combine, he did say, look, sometimes you bring in a wide receiver, even if you have those guys. Because I kept trying to get to him and just because you have Beasley and Brown shouldn't impact the type of player you pick. He's like, look, you could draft a player there, and they might be a similar player to who you have, and that player might be a veteran, and that second player, the one you brought in, contributes, and then they stay on their rookie contract. He even mentioned that. They're on that rookie contract, and that other player moves out. Now, could that be Beasley?
Yes.
Could that be Brown in a year? Things can change pretty rapidly in this league. I think they certainly could go for offense in the second round, but I think one way or the other, some sort of an edge rusher has got to be in their mind in round number 2. That's something they still need. They've addressed some things. Mario Addison is great at 33, but they're going to need to get younger on the outside, and I think they're looking for an edge rusher pretty fast. No?
I agree.
I don't think that their pass rushing woes were that bad last year. They were 12th in the league in sacks. And look, they were in a lot of close games. They couldn't stop the run. If they can stop the run and force teams to pass the ball more, which they're probably – I don't know how much teams are ever going to want to pass the ball against Trey White in that secondary, but it's tough for them to get after the quarterback. They did it in Dallas. They've shown they can do it. They did it in Pittsburgh. They did it at times when they had the lead and those guys could pin their ears back. I just don't know if it's this much of an issue to need to go out and sign some big name guy because they need a pass rusher.
Now, I'm talking about drafting a young player with Jerry Hughes' age and his contract, one more year. Addison at that point. Again, you're drafting, and as you get farther down, it's less about what they can do right now and more about what they can do.
Good point.
That makes sense then, especially with them being in the second round now.
All right, great discussion, guys. Remember, you can see our videos and our coverage of the Bills on buffaloplus.com and, of course, on all forms of social media. For me, Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, Jenna Cottrell, thanks for watching. Check us out again as we continue to cover your Buffalo Bills.